Hello everyone, and welcome to this session, this marketing session on applied business analytics with MIT Executive Education. We're just waiting for people to come in and join the session, so I encourage you to settle in, get used to the environment. You're not already familiar with Zoom, and we will get started with content very shortly. Perhaps it would be a good opportunity to introduce ourselves. It would be great if you could use the chat option in Zoom. You should see that on your Zoom control bar. And just chat in and let us know who you are and where you're dialing in from today. I see Miranda from Rochester, New York, and Chris from Chicago. Thank you for starting us off. We have people slowly coming in. Good morning. Deborah Sullivan from New York as well. So Brian from Minneapolis, Harry, somebody I just missed from Cary, North Carolina, for somebody from Singapore, Nancy from Texas, Jeff from Texas as well. Ooh, now they're all scrolling by very fast. But I see Florida, Indiana, Ian from Denver, another person, VVS from India, WS maybe that is, Richard from Brandon, Missouri, Caroline from Germany. Oh, that sounds like our first European call-in. It's great to have so many people interested in this course. This is one of the real advantages of studying and learning online, is that you have such a possibility to interact with like-minded peers all over the world. So I see another name from India, Modi, dialing in from India. Anybody I missed? Raj, Shreyas, Christian, Ian. All right, so I'm sure there will be more folk coming along and introducing themselves to us. I see the participant numbers are still sort of ticking up slowly. But I think we do want to get started and use your time wisely today. So welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Here I am in Boston. My name is Deborah Soul. It's morning, it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day today here in Boston. So our plan for today is to talk a little bit about the learning outcomes of this course, give you some sense of what you can expect from it. We're going to talk about applied business analytics and particularly the take that MIT offers on this topic. We will go into some detail about the overall course learning experience and talk about the content, the kinds of experiences that you'll have. And we will definitely leave time for Q&A at the end of this session. We're looking at about 45 minutes in total, and we hope that by within about a half hour we'll be switching over to Q&A, and we'll try and get to all your questions. I'll encourage you to put your questions into the Q&A window in Zoom. That's also on your Zoom control bar. If you do have comments or chat, I encourage you to use the chat, but also make sure that you change the to field of your chat message to all panelists and attendees so that we can all follow the same conversation. I think some people did that already and others perhaps did not, and that's not a problem, but from going forward, let's all chat together. So make sure you change that to field. So I want to introduce the people who are on the call here with me today. Lauren Hogg is with us from MIT Sloan Executive Education. She's a program manager there, and she'll be talking to us about MIT, the MIT history and MIT's involvement in business analytics over the years. Isabella DiMambro is also with us. She's an assistant director of digital deliveries, also at MIT Sloan Executive Education. My name is Deborah Soul. I am a course leader with Emeritus. I help on a number of courses in the analytics space and in digital transformation topics as well. So right now, I think I'd like to turn the mic over to Lauren, who's going to talk about MIT Sloan School of Management and more. Thanks, Lauren.
Well, thank you, Deborah. I am going to talk a little bit about MIT Sloan School of Management. We are located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and are one of the world's leading business schools, and has a network of over 20,000 alumni across 90 countries. We are a part of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which has, to its credit, 89 Nobel laureates, 47 Rhodes Scholars, and 48 MacArthur Fellows as of 2017. So MIT's motto, Mens et Manus, which literally means mind and hand, reflects the educational belief of our founders. So education and practical application. Next, I'm going to go through the faculty with you. Perfect. So Dmitry Bersimets is the Boeing Leaders for Global Operations Professor of Management, a Professor of Operations Research, and the Associate Dean for the Master of Business Analytics at MIT. His research interests include optimization, stochastic systems, machine learning, and their application. In recent years, he has worked in robust optimization, statistics, healthcare, transportation, and finance. He is a co-founder of Dynamic Ideas, as well as many other companies, including Dynamic Ideas Financial, P2 Analytics, and Alpha Dynamics, to name a few. We are so very grateful for his incredible work on this program. We know that you will absolutely enjoy what he has to offer for this program. Next, I'm going to turn it to Bella to take over a little bit more about the business analytics skills.
Great, thanks so much, Lauren. Welcome everyone. We're so glad you can join us here today. So just to kick it off, in today's world, the abundance of data creates a lot of opportunity for business leaders to make better decisions. The challenge here is that interpreting data from multiple sources isn't necessarily common knowledge for most business professionals. You know, how do we know which algorithm to use? How do we know when to apply our human judgment into the decision-making mix? What are some of the most practical applications of artificial intelligence? The goal of business analytics is to determine which data sets are useful and how they can be leveraged to solve problems and increase efficiency, productivity, and revenue. You'll extract greater value from your data by learning about these time-tested categories of algorithms. One of the most sought-after skills in the new economy is proficiency with business analytics and applying them to the organization, your organization, to achieve better business outcomes, making decisions based on data rather than just gut feeling. This program isn't a technical analytics program, it's a decision-making program. We offer a practical framework that includes data models, decisions, and values. And if I could ask program support to go to the next slide. This program is a little unique among our MIT portfolio. It is case study based. And so through a series of case studies, we lay out an analytics framework. And this course helps to prepare leaders to effectively contribute to problem solving and lead teams of data scientists. So upon successful completion of this program, you will be able to recognize the breadth of analytics applications, describe common algorithms, their appropriate applications across domains, and their limitations, how to discuss how to use analytics problem solving to lead teams and design deliverables, and finally apply best practices for data analytics process management, including establishing workflows, identifying interdependencies, and recognizing when to utilize human judgment. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Deborah to talk us through a little bit more about the program. And Deborah, I think you might be muted.
Thank you for that. Yes, and thank you to both of you. Let's talk now about who should attend. So as Bella has mentioned, this is not necessarily a technical program. It's a decision-making program. It's trying to give you a sense of the technical capabilities that are possible with possible to use to analyze data sets, and think about ways that you can use data to describe situations, to predict future values, future situations, and to make, and then to prescribe actions so that you achieve particular targets. And so the course is really for anybody who wants to understand, how analytics can be applied in business, whether in a specific function or perhaps more generally. We cover a lot of different cases, as has been mentioned, and different industries are represented, although, the idea is that the techniques that you'll be exposed to, the approaches that you'll learn about are applicable in any industry. It's not confined to the particular domain. So it's designed for non-technical professionals. But if you are more technical, the course does include sort of code snippets that demonstrate exactly how particular algorithms or particular routines are implemented in R and Python. Those are the two programming languages that are included in this course. So if you're perhaps in general management, you might be a consultant, perhaps data and technology specialist, even functional leaders and individual contributors. Anybody can learn from this course. Perhaps you're more entrepreneurial, you own your own business. Even, there you can imagine yourself being a leader or heading up a data team, a data science team. You want to be able to understand, what are the capabilities of the techniques that they might be able to apply, help them think through how the data should be used, what are the problems that you might be able to solve using data. All of those roles could learn from this course. So, talking about, how do we tackle analytics or applied business analytics the MIT way? I already mentioned that we have the course includes optional code snippets. You don't need to understand R and Python to appreciate the course, but if you do, you can certainly take those snippets and incorporate them into your own work later. As a template for perhaps setting up an algorithm for your own data. We are trying to make AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning more accessible, explain how machine learning approaches use data to learn patterns, to detect trends and make predictions from those patterns. It's very visual, a lot of video content, a lot of visual materials are provided. You get access to all the sort of slides behind each module. I already said it's non-technical. It's supposed to be very accessible to business people who need to make decisions, business decisions, and use data to make those decisions. We really emphasize the interactive aspect of it, we hope that you're sort of getting used to the Zoom environment if you're not already familiar with it, because Zoom is one of the tools we use for our live sessions. Case studies are a core part of this course, and I'll talk more about each of those a little bit later. And then it does certainly involve hands-on exercises as well. So the learning experience, let's think about that. This idea of keeping it real, we're trying to stick close to the MIT approach of connecting mind and hand, making learning and then practicing, making what you learn very practical. We try to reach different learning styles. So if you're more visual or if you prefer to read, all the transcripts for videos are provided as well, so that you have a chance to sort of absorb information in different modes. And also the advantage of, actually perhaps I'll get to that later, but the pedagogical approach, trying to give you bite-sized elements to focus on at a time, so you can incorporate that learning into your ongoing life. No doubt you have a lot of other priorities and a lot of other things happening right now. We try to stay close to the real world, think about real world applications, and that's, you know, the core are these cases around which the learning and the approaches are introduced. We really strongly emphasize peer discussions. You can learn so much from your peers on these courses because, as you saw, there are people coming from all over the world who have diverse working experience, diverse living experience, and all of that can be brought to bear in the discussion spaces. And finally, there is a lot of support from the operations team on logistics, on content, on technical aspects and that sort of thing. So, you know, we hope that it's a really solid and well-rounded experience that you get. Convenience, keeping it convenient. Try to make the content very flexible. You can access it through different kinds of devices, whether you're on the web or whether you're on a mobile device. So the idea is that you can incorporate learning into your schedule, into your daily routine, and you know, are able to learn remotely wherever you are. And you also get access to the material on a modular basis, so it's released weekly. The advantage of that is that you're encouraged to pace yourself. You know, there are sort of weekly deadlines for assignments and discussions, but also you're working as part of a cohort. You're all working along at the same pace, and that's the best way to have good discussions if you're all, you know, focused on the same material at the same time. We want to keep it engaging. So the online classroom helps you interact with your peers, stay on track, and, you know, have a lot of culturally enriching interactions along the way. So the modules include different pieces, primarily video lectures. There are a couple of surveys every module, every week, moderated discussions. The class materials, as I said, they include cases, they include articles, there are a number of extra resources at the end of each module. There are quizzes. So, and then of course there are weekly office hours with the learning facilitators, and you have, you know, you're assigned to a section with a dedicated learning facilitator, and there's a large support team behind the scenes who do a fabulous job with all sorts of issues and queries. So the anatomy of the case and how you will learn, the learning journey. So typically for each sort of topic that's introduced, there's a sort of interactive activity where you're encouraged to think about the stated problem, maybe a poll, maybe an activity, some sort of discussion question. Prof. Batsima sets up the situation, the problem in an introductory video. We talk about what we're trying to learn, the outcomes that we're aiming for that particular module. And then we dig into a case, which is kind of this interactive flipboard mode, which is really a storyboard about how in that situation people would dig into the data, try and understand what data they had, dig into the models, think about what models might be appropriate to get answers to the questions or the problems that they formulated initially. Think about the decisions that get made, how much human judgment might be involved in those once you have a model. And then finally, always paying attention to what sort of value are we getting out of this effort. So I think Bella mentioned earlier, you know, we have the whole course is framed around this a framework of data, models, decisions, and value. And that's essentially how each case is described. After working through the case, there's a debrief session with the faculty, sort of a recorded interview. It's not a live session, but it's a recorded interview with the faculty where they discuss what was learned and some of the big takeaways from that particular analytic approach in that situation. And then afterwards, there's part of the assignments are, you know, asking you to think about how you would, how you might address certain issues that are brought up in each case or in each discussion approach. So let me talk about the sort of analytical aspect of it. Really, the goal of business analytics is trying to get useful information out of data, information that you can act upon that will bring value to your business or to your organization in some fashion. You want to be able to solve problems. You want to be able to be more efficient, be more productive, perhaps be more innovative, find new avenues to go down. And so some of the techniques that we introduce or the algorithms that we cover in this course include linear regression and logistic regression. So these are both part of a sort of general linear model type of general linear models. We do a lot on decision trees, both classification trees and regression trees. We also introduced the idea of random forests, which is, if you might guess, it's related to decision trees in some way. We talk about clustering and some deep learning techniques, and specifically in the context of unstructured data. So you might be more familiar with structured data, where you can basically put your data into rows and columns or records and attributes. Unstructured data like videos, audio, pictures, that sort of thing, that can also be analyzed. And so we'll introduce you to some of the ways that sort of data can be analyzed and how that can help decision making and build value. Let me talk very briefly about the actual content of each week. So each week is a new module. The first week, there's just one case, and we focus on Netflix, talking about movie recommendation algorithms. And you probably remember back in, it seems a long time ago, 2006, I think, Netflix put out their first contest to try and solicit help to build a better movie recommendation engine. And what we will dig into in this case is look at how we can use clustering technique to match individuals to movies they might like, or predict what movies they might like given their preferences for other movies. And so we'll explore a basic movie recommendation engine, and we'll talk about the details of clustering. In week 2, we move on to two cases, and then from then on, there's 2 cases in each week. So the first one is in the sports arena, talking about baseball, and this is the Moneyball story that you might have seen the movie, you might have read Michael Lewis's book on how the Oakland A's built a winning team with not a very large purse. They're not one of the big, very wealthy teams, or they were not at that point. And so we'll apply linear regression in this setting, learning how the Oakland A's were able to figure out how to staff based on the goals that they were trying to achieve. They wanted to get to the playoffs. They used that to figure out how many games they needed to win in a season to get to the playoffs. And then they worked back to see how do you win? What are the criteria that win? They were able to build regression models to predict what drives winning. And then they could make staffing decisions on the basis of that. So we'll dig into that story. The other case in week 2 is the Framingham Heart Study, which has been going on for decades now, and has studied thousands of people looking at certain health characteristics and their relationship to coronary heart disease. And in this case, we look at how logistic regression allows you to predict, is somebody likely to get coronary heart disease or not? And you can think about that as an early, using analytics to get an early warning so that you can intervene before they get, full-blown coronary heart disease. So the value, if you like, at stake is often not insignificant. In week 3, we talk about real estate, focused on Boston real estate, and we're looking at algorithms to predict real estate values. So here we actually get into a couple of different techniques. We apply linear regression, but then we also apply CART, that's the classification and regression tree approach. We use a regression tree to see, can we get a better model from a regression tree approach rather than a linear regression? And you'll learn, how can we predict median values of house prices? The next case on that, in that week's module, is a case on the Supreme Court. So you can see the domain of analytical applications is all over the place. So, and I mean that in a good way. So the Supreme Court case is an exercise to see whether we can use analytics to predict how the Supreme Court will vote on certain issues that come up to them through the lower courts. And we there use a logistic regression first to see, will they vote to reverse a decision or not? So it's a kind of binary outcome. Logistic regressions are appropriate for binary outcomes. But then we also use a classification tree to see, can we get more accurate on predicting a particular judge's decision? And there's a lot of activity in there, in that space of predicting legal decisions, because a lot rides on those decisions, for business, for individuals, and if you can act a little earlier, sometimes it's helpful. So that's why people might try to predict those decisions. In week 4, we're back in the healthcare space with D2 Hawkeye. And here the emphasis is slightly different. The goal is really recognizing that in the healthcare space, you have a sort of Pareto situation where perhaps 80% of people cost the system 20%, and 20% of the people cost 80%. So you have this long tail of a small number of patients who can perhaps be very expensive to the system because of chronic health issues. And so the idea is, can you predict from people's health characteristics at one time whether they are in a susceptible category that their health might start to deteriorate, so that you can take action ahead of time before they fall into that bucket of being really sick and really expensive from an insurance or from a health, medical payments point of view. And so the idea is to try and identify high-risk patients and save lives. And then the other case in week 4 focuses on Twitter, specifically natural language, trying to understand what we can learn from looking at tweets. Can we detect sentiment from people's tweets and act on that? And you probably have heard about natural language processing, NLP. That is, will introduce you to a technique that along those lines. This is the first case where we're really using unstructured data in the sense of, people's random comments, unstructured comments. Week 5, we're getting into deep learning. We're in the first assignment, or the first case, we're introduce you to the learning algorithms that help machines read handwritten numbers. And this is really quite interesting because you can sort of see how a visual, and it's a sort of general approach to any kind of visual image. If you imagine a handwritten letter number is just a visual pattern that we as humans recognize very easily, no matter one of the different styles of writing that people have. We're trying to teach machines to recognize and discern, is that a 6 or is it a a 3 or a 4. So this is quite an interesting case, and you're also introduced to open source tools like TensorFlow and Keras. And then the second case in week 5 is focusing on sort of strategy issues. So strategy is often perhaps, seen as more of an intuitive domain, but the point here is to show that you can use analytics to guide decisions. And the specific decision here is about what divisions of a large company should be invested in or just maintained or divested to have the greatest net present value return from the overall portfolio of businesses. So this is what we call a prescriptive kind of analytical space, where you're actually trying to prescribe action that will achieve some particular target. And in this case, the target is to have them to maximize net present value. Finally, in week 6, we're onto two cases again, really focusing on optimization or sort of prescribing the best action for a particular goal. So in inventory management focus, we're looking at how you can use machine learning algorithms and decision trees to try and balance the inventory load at different locations in the supply chain. And finally, we have an example in the commercial airline space, thinking about insurance. How should a commercial airline insure themselves? How can they figure out the best possibility? And in this case, you're introduced to the use of Monte Carlo simulations, where you're basically able to run hundreds and thousands of simulated results given a particular probability distribution and see what happens, and use those thousands of results to come up with a better estimate of a better prediction of what might happen, and therefore make a good choice about your insurance policy configuration, shall we say. So I hope you realize that that we're covering a lot of different industries in these spaces. We're trying to give you a lot of exposure to a number of different algorithms and techniques, and we kind of come back to different techniques through the course so that you're sort of building on your learning from one week to another as well. And then the sort of perhaps capstone piece of it for yourselves is really this analytics blueprint workbook. So this is your key takeaway. What we encourage you to do, and this is part of the assignment for getting credit for this course, is to build up an action plan for yourself, for your own organization, your own business, about how you might apply these tools, these techniques, what sort of data you have, what sort of data you might need. Really taking all of the learning from the weekly modules and internalizing it and applying it to your own setting, so that you have, by the end, a list of very actionable activities that you can go off and say, yeah, this is how I'm going to go and do this. And at the end of the course, you submit an executive summary about your key discoveries. So throughout the course, you're working on your workbook, but you're keeping that to yourself. That allows you to dig into perhaps what might be proprietary topics. You don't need to share that with us, but at the end you submit an executive summary as part of your final assignment. So hopefully that's given you a good idea of the overall course. I'd like to turn it back to Lauren to talk about the certificates from MIT.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, we have had actually a few questions in regards to the completion certificate. So this is a sample of what it would look like for your completion certificate at the end of the program. You will receive a digital certificate upon completion. It also counts towards one of our executive certificates through the executive education program. So on the next slide, I'll kind of go through a little bit more about what that means. An MIT Sloan Executive Certificate is a formal recognition of your professional development and commitment to continuous learning. Pursuing an executive certificate allows you to further your business knowledge and skills in a convenient, flexible schedule on your own design. So you can pursue this executive certificate in 3 areas of concentration. 1 being strategy and innovation, 2, technology, operations, and value chain management, and 3, management and leadership. Those are our 3 tracks that we offer. In order to obtain an executive certificate, you must take 4 total programs, 3 of which must be concentrated in a single track that I mentioned, and 1 of which must be completed on site at MIT campus. So regardless, that is our executive certificate. So your completion of this course counts for 1 of those programs towards the 3 tracks. So in addition to that, we also offer an ACE. So that is an advanced certificate for executives in management, innovation, and technology. And that's why I mentioned it as an ACE. This special certificate is earned by participants who attend 25 program days and complete at least 2 programs from each of the 3 tracks within a 4-year period. So programs taken to earn an executive certificate can also be applied to an ACE. You can earn an ACE, right, by completing 25 program days, and upon completion of this program, you will earn 2 program days towards that ACE certificate, if that is something that you would want to complete through executive education. So just wanted to let you know, if you have any questions about that, please put it into the Q&A box and we'll be able to answer it as soon as possible. And I will turn it back over to Deborah.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's largely what we have to share with you today. We want to draw your attention to the logistics of this course, which is starting in a couple of weeks. We encourage you to reach out to the team to connect with a program advisor if you have any questions. It is a 6-week course, online, 4 to 6 hours of commitment about a week. Very, very practical. You'll be exposed to a lot of different new tools, a lot of different techniques, and you'll have the opportunity to connect with like-minded peers around the world. So please take a look at this. The link at the bottom there will be in the chat in a moment, if not already. And we encourage you to click on that and follow up on this course. We hope to see you all in a few weeks online. And now I think we'll switch over and try and address any outstanding questions. I know some have been tackled in the meantime, but let me switch to the Q&A and see what we have here. So, so the first question I see is from Mukundan. Sorry, I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. Who asks, how much of this course overlaps with management analytics, decision-making lessons from the sports industry? I don't think, I don't know exactly. I'm not familiar with that course, but I imagine that that course particularly focuses on sports applications. There may be some similarity in the techniques that are addressed.
I can actually answer that, Deborah. I worked on both
Please.
of those.
Thank you.
Programs. So I would say that they are great companion programs. There is certainly a little bit of overlap from that. They are both talking about sort of the manager's responsibility and interaction in the data analytics process. But I would say the management analytics lessons from the sports industry takes a couple of steps back from applied business analytics and really looks at the whole journey from the manager's perspective, really high level sort of, what are your business goals, developing that problem statement, all the way through to how are you effectively communicating these findings, and really once you have your learnings from the analytics, sort of how are you applying those and making sure that there's impact. Whereas applied business analytics, I think, takes a deep dive into maybe 1 or 2 weeks of content in management analytics, and really sort of explodes the like deep analytics portion of it, and really does that deep dive into the different algorithms. There are so many examples in applied business analytics in terms of the case studies and the different industries that aren't covered in management analytics. And so I don't think that there is any sort of, I think that there are great companion pieces, and I don't think that you would find your time wasted by taking both of them.
Yeah, there is a follow-up question about that, advising on the course selection for those certificate tracks, but maybe that can be taken offline.
Yeah, I'll post in the chat section our registration team's email address, and they are happy to walk you through sort of what a track program certificate in that track might look like.
Okay, thank you. There are a couple of questions here about the course, the faculty, and the learning facilitators. So the course faculty is Prof. Dimitri Betsimas, and all the content of this course has been developed by him over many years. He's just a leading person in sort of advanced analytics space. The learning facilitators are MIT affiliated people, either who've come through master's programs or research there, that sort of thing. All the learning facilitators are vetted by MIT. The emeritus role is on the operations side. So emeritus helps with the operations and the actual delivery of the course. But the content is all MIT original content. There are assignments that contribute to your course certificate. They're mostly discussion assignments and the executive summary of your own blueprint work throughout the course. And the goal is to encourage people to, think further about what they've learned and share their own perspectives, their own reflections with the peers, and also interact with the peers. So the assignments require you not just to, put your own opinion out there, but also to engage with other participants on the course. As we said before, we're really trying to make it highly interactive because that's one of the real, effective ways that adults typically learn, is where you're able to think things out and apply them and hear from other people about, what they do with a particular topic or with a particular technique. There's a question here about the university opening for classroom trainings for international students. I'm not sure, that might be an MIT question, but it may not be directly related to this course. Yeah. Lauren, or could one of you take it?
Yeah, I mean, MIT has not, the institute has not made an announcement on when sort of any activities might be able to resume on campus. I think that certainly degree programs, undergrad and MBAs will be prioritized. And so if you're asking about when our on-site executive education programs will be back, I really can't answer that, unfortunately. But if you are looking for, our portfolio of executive education programs that we do normally offer on site, we have transitioned those to live online, a good portion of them. And so I encourage you to check out our website if you're concerned about, completing your executive certificate track or achieving your ACE. So certainly there are options, but yeah, I mean, every day we learn something new. So not sure when we'll get back on campus.
Yeah, yeah. I am cognizant of the time. I don't want to run over too much. We thank you for being with us. I do want to make one last comment or address one last comment on the case studies. There's a question about the data, whether you will get to analyze the data using some of the tools. It is largely a non-technical course, so you don't have to dig into the data yourself. You're sort of walked through how it is analyzed, and different aspects of the process are highlighted and demonstrated for you. In some cases, you have access to the data. In some cases, the data is proprietary, and so we cannot share that. But wherever possible, we try to direct you to similar data sets or to sources where you might find data where you could actually try out the techniques. So hopefully that will help you. Maximum, I think this last question is really for the MIT people about the maximum time frame to complete the 4 courses to get an executive certificate.
Sure. We ask participants to try to complete the 4 courses within 4 years. Obviously, if something comes up and you have a change in employer or family circumstance, we're certainly able to be flexible. So I'd encourage you, if you're worried about completing the 4 years, to reach out to our registration team. But your certificate won't get automatically sort of pulled and processed, and we won't know that you're earning a certificate if you're not completing it within the 4 years. So definitely reach out if you think you're going to go over that 4 years.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've reached the end of the questions. If you do have any more questions, please reach out to the MIT address that you see in the chat, mit@emeritus.org. And we're going to close down the session right now. Thank you so much for your time and your interest in this program. We really do hope to see you online in the Applied Business Analytics course in a few weeks. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.